All right. So one of the topics I wanted to touch on this week was a headline that I saw the beginning part of the week, or maybe over the weekend here. I sent it to Stephen here, and it caught my attention. But Realtor.com put this out, talking about a second home tax.
Yeah.
What does this entail?
So, I think this headline is really coming from what we're seeing in New York City right now. So we had that big headline come out, or ad, I guess you would call it, where the mayor there was talking about second homes and wanting to tax, the ultra wealthy, the ultra rich that were owned property in New York City that as a second home, maybe they didn't use it very often. So, looking at increasing maybe that tax rate to help the tax base. So I think in theory, probably a good idea. But there's definitely some pros and cons to each side the way I look at it. So, and I know you're going to talk about this a little bit, but here in Ocean City, we have 7,000 year-round residents, give or take.
All right. Not very many.
Not very many. About 87% of the properties here in Ocean City are deemed second homes or some sort of vacation rental. So, we have a large base of second homes. We do not have an increased tax rate here in Maryland for second homes. It's charged in Worcester County at the same base rate as it is for primary residents. The big difference there is primary residents in Worcester County, we can pay our taxes twice a year. So we get, biannual or semi-annual, however you term that, but we get to pay taxes twice per year. Whereas second home owners, they have to pay their taxes one lump sum July 1st. So that's kind of like the big tax difference. So how I look at our area, we're a second home area, right? We go from 7,000 people here year round. In the summer, we're over 300,000 people a week. So what I look at it as a pros for us is, maybe we could add some more year-round residents, but then we're going to detract from the millions of guests we get throughout the summer. So for me, I think the economic impact as far as the money that is now being spent in town, when people are on vacation, they spend a little bit differently than they do when, they're year-round residents. So
absolutely.
I think, for us, it's always been that hybrid ownership here in Ocean City where people use their place a few times a year. They may come down during the off season, but then they're doing some rentals as well to help offset that cost. And not only is it helping those people that have, took a chance and bought a second home in Ocean City by being able to offset some of those costs, but again, our economy, we're having people come in changing every 3, 4, 7 days. We're getting a new group of people that want to come visit our town and are inserting money into our local economy. So the way I look at it for us, the second home not being taxed higher is definitely a pro because we're still seeing people invest. We're seeing people, destination area here in Maryland. I mean, everybody almost vacations at Ocean City, whether it be for 3 days a year, 2 weeks a year. I mean, I think everybody that lives in Maryland is going to be at Ocean City at some point this year.
Right.
And these second homes offer opportunities to people that might not be able to afford to live at the beach full time. But they want to get down for a couple weeks or a week during the summer. So I think for us it's a pro. Also, we don't have the infrastructure. I mean, to be completely honest, if we were to add, 250,000 more year-round residents to Worcester County, it would be a struggle for us. We would have to do a lot as far as schools and shopping and everything. So I think for us, we're not ready. So it doesn't make sense for us to have a higher second home tax. When I look at places like, it's happening, they're talking about in New York. I know it's happening in Hawaii at some places. Hawaii kind of surprises me because again, that's a vacation area. Like you don't want to chase out those people that are vacationing or investing their money to be in that area. New York City is kind of I guess maybe a different concept because maybe you are looking for more year-round properties for people. I mean, that's a big city. There are ownership issues, I'm sure. So I think this is an evolving topic. I think we are going to see, I mean, even here in Ocean City, we've had talks about, some rental restrictions and different zonings. So we could see that moving into different areas where we see high concentrations of second homes, where maybe they're going to talk about either having a higher base rate tax for second homeowners. Maybe there's a one-time fee. There's all different kinds of things you can do to maybe increase your tax basis. But I think there's going to be a balance. You don't want to chase out the people that are helping pay taxes. But yeah, you want to help your residents for sure. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch how it plays out over the next couple of years. I think second homes, investment properties, rental properties, maybe have gotten a little bit of some negative media attention over the past few years. Here in Ocean City, it's always been something that's happened. We're looking at ways that, might evolve moving forward, but I don't think it'll ever be gotten rid of, the second home idea. So yeah, just this tax is something that could happen moving forward in different municipalities. One of the interesting things is there really is no legislation at a state level anywhere, at a national level anywhere, but we're seeing like local municipalities kind of enforce some of these rules. So there's really no consistency to it. So I think that's where maybe the scary part is there's no consistency. So something to definitely monitor, but really no talks here in our community as far as a second home tax increase, but definitely making some national news.
Right. Well, taxes in general get people energized. And I can tell you, I hear it, I see it on social media whenever taxes come about and people are threatening taxes or an increase or a decrease, people become very polarized, right? Opposites. And, certain people think Maryland's got high taxes as it is. But to your point, here in Worcester County, if we're looking at that specifically, there is no increase for a second home. They're just paying the taxes off of the assessed value. Our primary residences, you said they get to pay biannually, but they could apply for the homestead credit, right? Sure. and get a slight reduction. So it's not like there's an increase for second homes, but the primary residents could get a slight reduction, and they have some caps as to how they phase in the assessed value every 3 years. So there is some benefit there. But to your point, when you look at the fact that we have 7,000 year-round residents in Ocean City, but what was the number you put out there? 87. What was the percentage?
87% about our properties in Ocean City are registered as either second homes or some sort of investment property.
So that's a huge amount of tax dollars coming into Worcester County, paid for by people who aren't necessarily benefiting from the services like schools, right, and some of these other amenities that you get when it's your primary residence. So it always makes me scratch my head a little bit when I think about how much tax dollars comes into Worcester County as it is. And a lot of it's funded by people who don't necessarily live here, and they don't get a vote.
Right. Which is great for us. And again, I think it's great for people that have an opportunity to come and experience the lifestyle for a week. I mean, again, we have people that are taking a chance, buying a second home. They're putting tax dollars into Ocean City, into Worcester County. And then not only that, they're then turning around and opening it up for everybody to come use it. I mean, what a better way to advertise our city, to have people come in and see what we're all about. So I think, some of this, looking down on second homeowners or investment properties, is crazy to me, because these people have taken a chance. We do this. This is my 11th year in the business. And one of my lines is, when I'm working with clients and they're like, hey, we're just not quite ready to make an offer yet. My line is, I get it. No one needs a second home. Right. We're literally selling luxury items a lot of times that people are just deciding to buy to take a chance. And we all know a lot of time the rentals aren't really cash flowing positive for the first 5-10 years, depending on how much money, you've invested in your rate and all that. So it really is a risk. No drain on local services. And then again, if someone's renting 12 weeks, that's 12 opportunities for a different family to come down on vacation with their vacation money and inject it into our local economy. Again, I think if you get into some more year-round residence areas, New York City, some big metropolises, we know there's some issues with rentals. We know there's some issues with affordable housing, with even opportunities to buy. But again, you just want to make sure you're not isolating these folks that have taken a risk, that are investing in our communities, and like you said, not even being here to use the things they're investing in most of the time. So, right. I think it's just it's interesting how everything gets looked at. We love our second home owners. We love our investment property owners. My parents are proud second home owners here in Ocean City. I've been vacationing here my whole life before I moved here. And, without second home owners, that might not have been possible. I know, we couldn't afford a condo till later in my life, growing up. So, I think it's interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. There's also, for our second homeowners, they have to have a rental license if they're renting it. There's other fees that are, going to the town, to the city, to make, that make up for maybe people not being there 365 days a year.
Right. Yeah, that's the whole rental license thing is another hot topic, which we'll bring back to the podcast here in the next couple of weeks, I'm sure. But one thing we do have, so we don't have an increase in taxes for second homeowners, but what we do have, and I get this question a lot, is just like, what's that exit tax you've got, in Maryland? And it's not just Maryland, but it's what they're typically referring to as Maryland and Delaware has something called the non-resident withholding tax. And what, we can get into, a little more detail on that in another podcast. But what we do have is when you sell a home and it wasn't your primary residence, both Maryland and Delaware are wanting to make sure that they can capture the state portion of the capital gains tax, essentially, where Delaware's at 6.6%, and Maryland just increased theirs a little bit to 8.75%, and that's only on the gain. Right. They're looking to, when you sell a property and you invested wisely and the property went up in value. There's some gain there, and capital gains tax is something that's very real. But we do have that, and that is something that gets collected pretty much at the time of closing. And there's ways around it. There's calculations. There's things you can do. Not ways around it, but there's calculations that you can do to reduce the actual tax amount. So,
yeah, and you can actually get an exemption, correct, at times if you file it within time. That it doesn't forgive you from paying that tax, but you get all your proceeds and then agree to file with the state you sold in to make sure that tax can be captured. So, and then talk to your accountant. Obviously, if you've invested money in the property, there's ways to make that number maybe a little bit smaller, so your gains or capital gains tax a little bit less. But yeah, just if you want an exemption, that is something you got to start early in the process, because it can take 30, 60 days at times to get that.
Right. And that's something I would encourage you to talk to your agent or talk to us. It's something we work with every day, the non-resident withholding taxes, and we can help prep people ahead of time. So it's not a surprise.
Right. And that doesn't mean you're losing all that money either. That means the state is withholding it for now to make sure that you actually file your taxes within the state. So you might get some of that back. You might get all of it back. It's just kind of very situation dependent, but that does not mean you're losing that tax money right away.
Right. And the biggest misconception there is it's, a lot of our clients will think it's geared just towards non-residents, like it's an exit tax for non-residents. Well, actually, the tax rate applies for both residents and non-residents. It's just about when it's collected, where, with a non-resident, it's collected at time of closing, where if it's your residence or you're a resident of the state selling a non-primary residence home, you're subject to this capital gains, but it's going to come tax time.
Well, they know you got to file, so they don't need to withhold it because they know you got to file.
You live here
to get anything back. So,
right.
But yeah, not really an exit, kind of an exit tax. Not really. Just want to make every state, anywhere you do business, they want to make sure they get their money.
Right.
So.